Welcome to our third panel in the Lift Every Voice Black Alumni Across the Industry panel series featuring our alumni in the tech industry. My name is Letitia Taylor, and I am the Director of Alumni Career and Personal Development with VCU Office of Alumni Relations. With respect for our time during this 1 hour long event, we have placed the link for our viewers to conveniently learn more about our moderator and panelists. So you will see that link pop up in a few. Without further ado, I will now like to turn it over to our moderator, 2007 School of Arts alumna, Karita Mero, who is serving as Adobe's Senior Diversity and Inclusion Program Manager in San Francisco, California. Take it away, Karita.
Yes, thank you, Letitia. I am so happy to be here. I'm actually calling in from hometown, Richmond, Virginia, where I'm COVID living with my family. So shout out to VCU and Rams at 804. As Letitia mentioned, our panelists' full bios can be found with the link that was placed in the chat pod. I'll provide a very brief intro to our panelists to welcome them to this discussion. But today we will hear from 1986 School of Business graduate Glenn Davis, President and CEO of Brand Core Technologies in Richmond, Virginia. We'll also hear from 2014 and 2010 School of Business double alumnus Justin Jones, who is Vice President of Software Engineering at Prio Health in Orlando, Florida. Last but not least, we will also hear from 2018 School of Business alumna Destiny Morene, a federal senior program management consultant with IBM in Richmond, Virginia. But thank you all so much for dialing in and being here. And I just want to make sure I send everyone some peace and light. So let's jump right into our first question. All right. And a little bit about the questions and discussion. We'll have about 40 minutes to go through some questions and answers from our panelists, and then we will kick it over to the next part of the discussion and close it out. So the first question, are we ready, panelists? Can you give me a thumbs up?
Yes.
Yes. All right. I'm excited. Okay. Thank you. So let's give a little bit of, I want to know about how you got into your career. And so a little bit about how you got from VCU to here. And so what insight sort of and steps did you take to determine how to use your VCU degree, any other degrees, and what did you know before obtaining it and what role that you wanted to pursue? So more about, I guess you can tell about a little bit of your journey, and then how did you know that your degree would help with that? And let's go to first, Destiny.
Okay, first on the hot seat. So I think I'd like to say that I stumbled into the tech industry. I was just someone that was open. Just for background, I was an accounting major and I had a job with a accounting firm. And then I had decided this wasn't something that I really wanted to pursue. And so I decided to switch to marketing. And I was super passionate about it. And that also came from, I had a certification in product innovation with the Da Vinci School. And so that kind of stemmed from that as well. And so I went to the career fair and I saw at IBM and I learned about consulting more from the recruiter. I did some more research from it and it just seemed like the perfect career for me, especially graduating college, just right out of college and not knowing exactly what I wanted to do. So I got into IBM by being a federal consultant in the project management service line. And so I started in project management doing proposals, so helping craft the language for proposals and a lot of our government deals. And then I am now on a Department of Homeland Security project in Washington, D.C., where we are creating a financial system or upgrading it for counting weapons of mass destruction, Transportation Security Administration, and United States Coast Guard. And so I started on that program in the program management role where I was the deliverable and risk manager. And then now I actually transitioned to a new role where I am developing training content for our client, U.S. Coast Guard, and also becoming a junior trainer. And so I feel like my degree and my certification, especially with product innovation, really honed in on pivoting, being innovative, and always being open-minded and trying new things. And so that has really helped me when it comes to IBM, because there's so many opportunities within my company, but you have to be willing to explore them and willing to step out of your comfort zone. So that's definitely how it's helped me.
Thank you. And I'm going to put on my former recruiter hat on. And so consulting services is always a great plug for a lot of folks to go into if they want to venture into tech. There's a lot of possibilities there, and you can move your way inside of tech companies. So let's go on to Glenn. Again, how did you get into, just a little bit quick synopsis, how you got into your field and how did your degree help you?
So let me tell you this. I started out at VCU as a piano major. You know that? I came in as a piano major, didn't start out in IT or anything like that. And I kept seeing all of my colleagues and all my friends going to the School of Business and at school. And I kept saying, man, they're going to be making a whole lot of money and I'm going to be working on a corner like we'll play the piano for food. I'm telling you, I was just thinking that this may not have been for me or what have you. So I said, let me go ahead and just switch. Now, that's when I would say back in 20 years or 30 years ago, IT started to be one of the industries that was booming. So I went ahead and I started going to the co-op department or what have you in the office of Career Center. And I just happened to get an intern as an intern in the IT department. And then from there, I became well, they call it a gopher. I was thinking I was going to have this wonderful IT where I would be programming, what have you. And it was, hey, you go for this, go get the mail, go do that. But I decided I was going to be the best gopher. And all of a sudden I got out and got an information systems job and just kept on rolling. And I stumbled upon an account management job. See, so an account management job goes out to other different departments and you represent that IT company. And before I knew it, I was bringing in for that company, I was bringing in like $2 million a month for the company. And I said, hey, if I can just do this for myself. So the degree, again, I switched and had a wonderful switch from music, but I did get a minor in music. And then I got a major in information systems. So now I'm an entrepreneur and I just love it. So the degree that VCU gave me, both of them, I mean, I use both of those degrees. Just letting you know, I also am a director at St. Paul's Baptist Church. So I get a chance to use both of those degrees to move forward. It's just a wonderful thing for me right now.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that is a huge testament about how VCU has shaped our economic power, right? And, you know, I started off as a fine arts major in paint and printmaking. I'm in diversity inclusion. So there's some synergies there, as VCU being one most diverse on the East Coast. So, but yeah, I love what you mentioned about tech. There's a lot of great money and a lot of benefits and a lot of equity. And so I always encourage folks that, hey, you can build up opportunities of wealth if you enter into the tech industry. So Justin, what do you have for us? How did you get into your role and how did that degree help shape that?
My pathway should have been easy, but it wasn't. I've always been a nerd. I've always been a geek. I used to go with my dad to the library and I used to hop on the computers and program, did all the typical geek things. But when I got to high school, like this like little art thing bit me. I don't know what it was doing, but I wanted to go into video editing. And so I came to VCU originally under mass communications. And that was a total mistake, both on my part and my parents. I blame them mostly for the bad decision. Just kidding. No, it was a bad decision. I absolutely hated it. I didn't like it. I wasn't getting enjoyment out of it. And don't get me wrong, I still performed well enough for VCU to let me back in, right? I just didn't like it. I thought college wasn't for me. So I left, I joined the Army, went to Baghdad, and in Baghdad, I had an epiphany. You know what? College wasn't so bad, right? And so I came back and I said, you know what? Actually, I'm going to go to my roots and do the thing that I know that I love. And so I'm going to go back and do information systems. And that's how I stumbled into my career. I just happened to go to the library with my dad, and I just happened to discover an application on the computer called Visual Basic. And that's all she wrote.
Awesome. Thank you. Talking about your tech stack. So, but shout out to the School of Arts. So I'm going to put that plug there. And so the next question, kind of like as the evolution of what you mentioned, as we give advice to those that are joining us, what are two skill sets or characteristics that have helped serve you and really persistence towards your goals of entering where you are now, right? Like, what do you think that is most valuable that you use? And I can start off with myself. I think for my particular role, I have my skill sets are strategy building, problem solving, as well as influencing. So let's play popcorn it over to Justin, since you were just the last person.
Oh, you got me on the spot here.
Yes.
I think that I like to take my time, right? And so I think patience is a good skill. And in technology, I think patience is especially important because in technology, you're always a consultant. You're always doing something for someone else. You're supporting a need that someone else has. You're rarely supporting your own needs. And so it's necessary to have patience to assimilate and understand what your customer needs. That's an essential skill. And obviously you have to master communication, right? So you have to be patient, understand what they're trying to say, be quiet and listen a little bit. And then you have to master communication and make sure that you understand and they understand that you know what they need, right? And so there's that communication aspect, and there's a lot of patience that goes into being an effective technologist. I think those are two dominant skills that I think have helped me to achieve success. There's a whole host of other skills that you need, but I think those are part of my recipe.
That's important, more tangible skills and those applied experiences. So Glenn, I see you're off mute.
Yes, I will tell you, I think it's my people skills. I will tell you, the people and leadership skills. You have, first of all, I think IT, it really is, it's a industry for introverts, in my opinion. So people have to be made comfortable, to feel comfortable. I think I really know how to make people feel comfortable because people are not going to open up. They're not going to open up to you unless they feel comfortable. And I also think just the volunteering, I really jump in and I try to volunteer for a lot of different things, whether that's being on committees or what have you, because again, that gives people the openness and the comfortability to say, wow, hey, that person's a hard worker. So again, I think that people skills and leadership skills are so important. That's how I think I've been able to kind of move forward with my career.
Thank you. And there you have it. Now, Destiny.
So I think the first one, especially within consulting, is networking, and also I guess tech in general is just networking. It's good to learn what people do, who they are, what their role is in your company, or even the industry at large. And like a lot of times when I was like brand new to IBM, I would just message people and even higher ups, and we have an open door policy. So that may not work in every company, but at least in IBM, like I remember messaging like one of our top people and like C-suite. And I was like, hi, pretty much like, what do you do? And introducing myself, and they received it like very well. And a lot of times people will, really want to have a conversation with you and want to connect with you because people love talking about themselves. And I think that's also a great way just to know who's who within an organization, and also potentially like what opportunities there are for you and your future career. And so also networking is really good within consulting, because when you start performing very well, people will take notice and they'll take heed to that, and they'll allow you to, have opportunities that people who aren't networking as much, to basically get those opportunities, because you're exposing yourself in a positive way to lots of people. And then I think the second one is being open to learning. And also being open to failing quickly. For me, I started in program management, and I knew nothing about program management, but I learned from a lot of managers and listened, just like to understand what was going on, ask those questions that may seem like those are the dumb questions. Like, no, they do want to answer those questions for you, but also make sure you research as much as possible before asking those questions. And also don't be afraid to explore new things. Like, for example, I started in program management and I got a certification in program management with the Program Management Institute, the PMI Institute. And then now I'm learning how to learn code Python. And that's not even something I thought that would be in my repertoire ever. So just being open to learning and having new experiences.
Yeah, I think that's always very critical, right? Like I always tell folks that they want to enter or switch careers to take a look at what certifications that current company has and what educational opportunities are out there and take advantage of those free resources. So that kind of steers into our next question. And we hinted at some of these, but what would you recommend for someone who wants to switch careers? How they go about doing that? And I can kick it off with some advice I tell individuals to look at. Number one, apprenticeship programs. A lot of companies have those. That's your way you can get into it, like a coding boot camp. Companies will pay for that. Or reach out to folks on LinkedIn that has that desired career that you want to have, and also search career websites with all and look at the roles and check them off, which ones you want to enter, and then look at those roles that people have on LinkedIn and start looking at how they can figure out how to align our LinkedIn with those job descriptions to make sure it match. So I'm gonna kick it over to Destiny. You're shaking your head, you're ready, but how would you give advice to folks that want to switch careers? What is some initial steps?
Completely agreeing with everything you're saying, because I've reached out to people on LinkedIn just to learn about their different roles and their company, organization, culture, that kind of thing. Even using the VCU Alumni portal, like there are so many people that are in all of these wide industries. You just have to really search for an industry. I forgot what exactly it's called, but hopefully Letitia, you can explain that later. But like just using the resources that you already have is like one of the biggest ways to transition into a new industry. And I think, again, just being open and also to Justin's point, being patient. Like, I think this is one of the biggest things. A lot of times we like to rush into things, like we want to rush into the job, like we applied for 5 jobs, why don't we get a call back? Like, be patient, and it takes a while to get a call back from a lot of these larger companies, especially like FANG, like Facebook, Amazon, etc. Like it definitely takes a while to get that call back, but keep being diligent, keep being disciplined, and keep being open, because there's going to be that opportunity that is going to allow you to walk into the doors. And honestly, again, it's just networking with the right people for someone to take a chance on you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Glenn, yeah, you definitely switched careers, and Justin, but Glenn, if you can give us some advice.
I will tell you just what Destiny said. It's networking. I mean, there's also all kinds of mentors, people who've already been there. My pastor always says, if you want to go somewhere, find someone who's already done it. I mean, you've got to network. And I wanted to also, while Destiny was talking about that, I kept saying, man, networking. When I first got out, I actually joined this organization called the AITP, Association for Information Technology Professionals. It used to be called the Data Processing Management Association. And I immediately did not see any African Americans inside, because this is a white predominantly industry. I didn't see any Blacks. So I actually got on the board of directors just taking reservations in 1988, 1989. Then all of a sudden, those folks inside there said, hey, Glenn, why don't you run for president? So here I was, only 24 years old, and they said, why don't you run for president for this national organization? So all of a sudden I said, okay. They said, we had your back, right? So again, I became president in 1990, and then also an association director from 91 to 96. And that's where, again, where folks started to say, wow, he's a hard worker. I want to be associated with him. And that's where I'm telling you, I never understood how important networking was until I actually got outside of my comfort zone, and I actually joined that organization. And from that, again, I was able to ask anybody what I needed to do. If I needed a career change, I had a whole organization that I can talk to anybody else. So I would recommend that anybody get into organizations that are associated with your major, and then they'll guide you into the right field. They will guide you into wherever you want to go.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And Justin, if you can pick it right up.
Sure. I'm a big proponent of like people just helping people. And I think that is almost the default. People like to help others. And my recommendation, if you want to switch careers, is to talk to people within your current organization that may be more aligned to the role you want, right? And see if there's an opening, right? There's always temporary staffing opportunities. There are always things that pop up that could very well suit your needs, and try to fit into that gap. And even if it means you have to take a hit on compensation, or even if it means you have to work a little bit harder, or if you have to work in a almost tangential role to the thing that you're aiming for, at least you're closer. And leveraging those relationships is absolutely paramount in changing careers, because it's really hard to get somebody you don't know to take a bet on you, but it's really easy to get folks that you're associated with to kind of go out on a limb for you. And I recommend doing that. I've been fortunate enough to help others in that particular position where they were in a role in the company that I worked in, but wanted to get into tech somehow. And I was able to bring them on in temporary positions, internships, things like that. And fortunately, lots of those people are still in tech today. So I would say use your network, use the people you work with every day to help bridge your gap from where you are to where you want to be.
Yeah. And thank you. And there were some great resources that was shared as a LinkedIn alumni tool in the chat pod. I encourage folks to click that link and also look at the organization that Glenn has provided. That is something you look at to see what certifications are out there. I also want to give people some inside scoop. So recruiters use something called LinkedIn Recruiter, which is like the back end part of LinkedIn. And they search for folks based on those roles, their job descriptions. So like, let's say they want someone with Azure or consultant experience or has certain tech stack, they'll look for those skill sets on LinkedIn Recruiter. So if you're missing that from your profile, you may not be as competitive as you think. So that's just one little scoop. So let's go into a different direction. For our next questions, I want to, learn a little bit more about how you show up at work as your authentic self. So this question is, how would you say your identity has shaped how you navigated your career and even how you show up in your respective roles? So anyone can put that, just go and I see Dustin, you're smiling. So you got it.
I just smile in general. So no, just kidding. But how has my identity shaped my role? That's a good question.
Just your career. Or you want to answer is, how do you show up as work? Do you show up as work?
Yeah,
as yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, perfect. I'm glad you rephrased it like that. But I show up as myself. And I think that's kind of a luxury. I mean, I work at a great company that's very inclusive and very diverse. And I think it's great because there are a lot of like people that look like me, like Black women, like people of color that are also at the top that are being their authentic selves. And, they create this space, like this trickle effect that allows, everyone else to kind of be themselves. It's almost like when the smallest person in the room can be themselves, it makes it acceptable for everyone to be themselves. So I feel like I do have a luxury because I am in such an inclusive and welcoming environment. I mean, we even have like constant diversity inclusion surveys to make sure like we're understanding the environment and how people are feeling. Are people feeling welcome? Do people feel like they can show up to work 100% themselves? We have tons of diversity and inclusion initiatives. I helped with an initiative called Embrace, and it's a federal initiative to make people of color feel more comfortable at work, especially after some of the political protests that happened last summer. And so I show up with my hair like this, like I show up in braids. I just show up as me. And I feel like that brings a comfortability when it comes to work and it makes it less stressful, because I know people who aren't able to afford that luxury and show up as themselves, and it kind of makes it more stressful coming to work. And so I definitely am pretty I would say lucky or blessed to be able to show up as myself.
Can I jump in here? Okay. Again, owning your own company, yes, I can show up as myself now, but 25 years ago, or what have you, especially in this is a predominantly white industry, I will tell you, you can't always show up as yourself. And you're right, today with the Black Lives Matter movements and Me Too and all that, there's things that have changed, but I will tell you, before you, 30 years ago, when I was first coming on up, or even 25 years ago, you always have to watch what you say. I mean, I'm telling you, you can't, so I hear so many people say, hey, well, nobody's going to get me out of character. I'm going to say whatever I want to say. No, you have to analyze every single thing. You don't have that luxury of being at the water cooler or being at the restaurant and just saying what you want to say. I mean, one wrong thing in front of the right person could really prolong your career. And I will tell you that in industry. And that's why you won't even know why you're not getting the raises and the promotions or what have you, because they don't have to tell you really, right? So that's what everyone always asks me, why are you thinking all the time? Before I go to every meeting, I think about every answer that I'm going to say. I know it sounds crazy, but you really do have to think about every single thing that you're going to say, because again, I'm going to say it, one wrong thing in front of the right person can really be damaging to your career. That's what I have to say.
Yeah, I want to echo what you said, Glenn, and also what Destiny said, plus 1,000 on all that. It's concise. I instead of summarizing, I synthesize what I'm saying when I'm working with my stakeholders. So like when I first joined into my role, I had listening tours, and I was able to ask folks about what was successful in their role before I went into share, well, I think you should do this first, right? I wanted to make sure they build trust. So what you're saying is you got to build trust. You got to write a script all the time. And I would say in tech, what we look at for like every email, even when you're saying things, you're 3 bullet points max. And so those are some things that I think would be helpful for folks. Anything over 3 bullet points, we may not read.
Yeah, bluff, bottom line up front. Like we don't have time.
Yes, I agree. It's so much going on. And it's no fault of anyone. But I also want to say is that I show up as my full self. I have blue hair. I have all kind of bright suits. I mean, but it is Cali. So sometimes we can be what we want when we're there. But I embrace that from that VCU School of Arts. And so Justin, I'm going off topic now. Sorry about that, y'all. So yes, how do you show up? Obviously, your role, you can show up any kind of way you want, but how do you show up, or how have you showed up in your career, getting to that point, and have you been authentic in showing that up as your full self?
So not quite at the top of the hill like Glenn, right? And so I still don't feel totally comfortable at work, right? I don't think I've ever felt 100% comfortable. And I'm not saying I haven't been authentic, but I am saying I haven't been comfortable being authentic at every place I've worked. I now work for an organization that has a Black CEO. So I feel much more comfortable today by far than I've ever felt in my life when going to work. But prior, like you said, you gotta stick to patterns, and anybody who's a good engineer knows you stick to patterns. You follow patterns because it makes everything easier as you follow those patterns. I stick to tried and true principles, and I try not to veer too far away from my own personally set guardrails to make sure that I don't get in hot water. And it's tough. It's tough to toe that line, especially when, there's a part of you that wants to be out there, that wants to be free. But at the same time, you got to look around the room, survey the landscape, realize that you're one of 15 people in there, and you're the only one that looks like you. And you have to manage that appropriately, so because you have a duty to yourself and to your family too, right? You've got to bring home the bacon, and you can't necessarily compromise those values for other values. So it's a balance, right? A little bit of bacon and a little bit of shielding who I really am in order to be able to be successful and have a long-standing career. But now things are looking a little bit better. Things are a little bit easier with a Black CEO. I can be a little bit more me. I can be a little bit more candid without fear of how that would be perceived. And so that's really how I've approached work, and that's how I show up at work. Is a little guarded now, less so than in prior employments.
Shout out to that. So thank you. My fake snaps. So we talked a little bit about you all hinting at these things, right? And my next question is about, you shared a little bit. Have you ever had the code switch in the industry? and just being able to acclimate and fit in. And I can do, yeah, Destiny, you're right ahead.
Yeah, so I think so. I think there's, the way you act around your friends and then the way you act at work. And I think it's code switching, but also just a language shift overall, and a comfortability. Like, that's a level of how comfortable are you really at work. But to Justin's point, like, now you have a CEO that's Black, right? So now you feel a lot more comfortable. Like when we have, Black people at those top levels, those C-suite levels, those partner levels, it creates an environment that is more comfortable and inclusive and allows us to be more authentic within ourselves. And so that's why I always say, like, I feel very comfortable. Like, for example, in my team right now, I have 5 or 6 Black people on my team, and it's about a team of 15 within my project, which is about 150 people. But within that team, I feel super comfortable, being who I am as a Black person, because everyone is who they are uniquely, but we all share, like, being Black in that culture. And sometimes it even comes out from time to time. Like, I remember on February 1st, I was like, happy Black History Month. And one of my teammates was like, we're gonna be Black, y'all. And I just never thought I would be on a team like that. But it's great, because when people who are in those higher positions are being who they are and they're being truly authentic 100%, it just creates that environment where everyone can be who they are. And it's not looked at as like, well, why is she acting like that? It's like, this is totally normal. Like, we want you to come to work 100%. So that's why I definitely say, like, it's definitely a luxury. Not all of us, especially as Black people, have that luxury at work. But I'm very, very happy to have that.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else want to tag on to that?
Yeah, I want to say, I mean, again, you can do that. I applaud you, Destiny, and I applaud, Justin, now you're right. When you have people who are in those positions higher up, it does make you feel comfortable. I'll tell you, I can do that now, but I can only do that now because a lot of times we have to be 2 and 3 times more qualified than our counterparts. We really do. So as you gain that confidence and they understand your abilities, then you can be any way that you want. So I think I've accomplished enough now that they know already, hey, he's been involved in so many networks, he's been involved in these circles here. So I don't have to worry about, not being myself anymore. But I will tell you, it's in the very coming on up here, you're right. I remember coming home, sometimes my wife used to say, can't you turn it off? Because sometimes I had 2 circles, right? One, I portray myself one way at home and one way in the other circles. And I'm telling you, at some point in time, it's hard to turn it on off. And so she always keeps saying hey, it's time to turn it on off. But I've become accustomed again to really in those circles. Again, I just you can't cut it off. You can't cut it off at some point in time. So now I can act as I want to, because I think they respect me for the accomplishments that I've done. If that makes sense.
And I definitely appreciate, like, your generation, for being the trailblazers, because without your generation, like, we couldn't be acting like how we are now. We couldn't be nearly as comfortable. So you guys facing the brunt of, all that backlash, like, I appreciate that. And I can't imagine what that felt like, but I really, really do appreciate that. And I appreciate your perspective as well.
But can I add before Justin? But I do want to say, though, just like we have our, mentors or what have you of, our Black men, like I had a Black mentor, Dr. Quincy Moore. You also need mentors in your job too, as well. And they may not be Black or what have you, but they're going to look out for you too. So again, it's not always feeling comfortable around, African Americans or what have you. You need your mentors also in the workplace that will help you move up the ladder too.
Yep. Yes. Plus one.
I agree. And I think you said like a key word, Glenn. I think you said once you've established that respect, right, then you can be more free. And I think in my past, whenever I had to code switch, so when I worked at Concern Track, we were looking to get venture capital for this startup. And I was in these venture capital, like swanky suites trying to pitch this tech, product to them. And I absolutely had the code switch. I had to be someone totally different because they were looking to sell or give their money to someone, right, who met their archetype for this product that was going to be next and up and coming, right? I had to be that person. And it was difficult. It was very difficult. And I felt uncomfortable the entire time. I had a lot of fun, don't get me wrong, but it was absolutely nerve-wracking. It was very tedious. And it was because I hadn't established that rapport, and there was that lack of, not disrespect, right? It was just a lack of respect that was there. And so I couldn't necessarily be who I was at that point in time. Now, that was 10 years ago. Now it may be different, right? Going into those rooms, they may expect me to be who I look like, right? As opposed to who they're expecting to see as a nerd with a computer and an app, right? And so I totally agree. It's all about respect and the perception of how much respect you carry with those folks. And if you don't know that you carry a lot of respect, you're probably going to code switch even a little bit. But if you think that you can be respected by those people and they're going to give it to you by default, then you can be authentic. And unfortunately, it's not always the case, right? Unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with that. And so you did answer one of the questions I had, Glenn, about mentorship. And so I always think that having that mentors and sponsors and also a circle of influence inside your company and an external can help you, right? Like if you get yourself in a little bit of a bind in a company, do you have someone like in a leadership or a director level role that can vouch for all the great things that you're doing? I think that's very important. I always tell people to make sure they connect with our HR business partner. They know that person. They connect with someone within our talent development or our learning development organization that can help them. And then also just someone that looks like them and it doesn't look like them that can help them just navigate the organization. Also set up 15-minute coffee chats or virtual teas now that we have. So you mentioned a little bit of this, but I want to take a step back. I realized that I overlooked this. I would love for you all to share with me a day in a life. Or what exactly that you do in your role. I know we have a little bit about your backgrounds in the bios, but I think it's very helpful if you share with the audience, what do you do from your 9 to 5 or what we say now, I guess time is just relative being in 2020 and 21. So Justin, I see you're ready, shaking your head.
Let's do it.
Yes, thank you.
My 9 to 5. So I work for an organization. We've got a number of organizations in the umbrella. One is headquartered in DC, one is headquartered in Orlando, and one is in Atlanta. So you can probably find me either here working from home in Richmond or in Orlando. And typically what I do from 9 to 5 is I do a little bit of software engineering. I do a little bit of leadership and personnel development. And I do a lot of collaboration with various people around the organization. Finding out, what's going wrong, really. I think that's the core thing with tech. What's going wrong, or what problem do we have to solve today? And problem being solved doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad problem. It can be a good problem. Like we have too much business. We don't have enough people to do all the work that we have on the plate, right? So there could be good problems, there could be bad problems, or what's going wrong. And that's constantly what I'm turning on. I'm looking for those things, talking with people, trying to figure out the best possible solution with that MVP mentality. How do we get it done with the least amount of effort and then crank on that MVP if it's necessary, right? What do we need to test and learn into after we get that MVP out? But typically every day, it's just me collaborating all day long with my stakeholders, whether it's my boss or peers or other people who aren't necessarily directly related to me in the organization. And that's a day in the life. And it seems kind of weird being in software engineering, and most of my job it consists of just talking to people. But that's the way things roll. Once, like as you kind of grow in your career, it transitions from like button pressing and slinging semicolons and curly braces as a technologist, and it transitions into communicating and clearing barriers and bridging gaps and connecting people, process, and technology in a really efficient way. So that's a day in the life of me.
Thank you for that. And you said something that's very key as you sort of move up in your career and to move around the organization, your roles start to shift. I find myself daily just working on coaching, influencing, active listening, and then going all back over that rinse and repeat. That's pretty primarily my day. But Glenn, can you share a little bit about your day, 9 to 5?
Yeah, well, like I say, I oversee, the aspects of the company. See, I mean, so here's what we're prime vendors for companies like, I mean, you're in recruiting, so you can understand this. We're prime vendors for like Capital One, Owens and Minor, Dominion, Virginia Power, all the state agencies. So whenever they have IT needs, my actually staff get those emails right to their email box. We don't even have to go looking for requirements, what have you. They come right to our email box. So again, I interact with the recruiters, I interact with the account managers as well, and all of the people at the client site. So the managers at the client sites, I make sure that our folks are doing well. I make sure, again, whenever their end dates are. Um, and I mean, it's a busy job, but again, I'm more into the people aspect. That's why I am so glad that I started out as a people person, because I am always looking behind me, meaning every other company coming behind me, every other minority company behind me. I want to make sure that they say, wow, Brand Core did a great job. So now let's go ahead and also now use these other minority companies. That's all I do, is I'm looking for those who are coming behind me, because I mean, VCU has given me a wonderful degree and a wonderful career path. So I now am only interested in trying to help people get to where they want to go moving forward. That's my job, is on a day-to-day basis, is interacting with the client sites and interacting with my employees, making sure that they feel like they're with a great company.
Thank you. Destiny.
So my 9 to 5 during COVID. So I'm at my computer a lot, but I'm getting a stand-up desk. So hopefully I'll be standing now when I'm working instead of just sitting all day. But I work in Oracle a lot. So Oracle User Productivity Kit and Oracle Knowledge Center. And so those are just fancy names for systems that we use to host our training content and developing training content. But I like my new role so much because my manager, I check in with her like every day. And typically she gives me like 3 or 4 projects per week. And I just have to like status her during the day, or if I run into any issues. So like right now I'm downloading user player packages, which basically is like our training content, and uploading them to our site. And so it's a great job. I like this position right now. Our project is going to end like August, September. But it's nice because I never know what to expect every day. And in my last role, where I was deliverable manager and risk manager, is very like, every day I had a routine. And so this is something different and gets me out of my comfort zone of routines. And so it's just nice because sometimes I'll have client meetings. Other times I'm just working on things by myself all day and just checking in with my manager here and there. But it's very interesting. And it definitely has, I think COVID, like working from home, has helped me become more disciplined overall, because like, it's not like I could just be at my desk in my office and everyone's working. So I'm just gonna work too. It's like more free, I guess, at home. So I definitely had to like coordinate breaks, like 15-minute breaks, not staring at the computer all day, making sure I actually stop and eat lunch. Cause at first I was working like straight at 8-9 hours a day without eating. Yeah, that had to stop like immediately. But yeah, that's my job.
Yeah, I agree. You have to make sure you have those breaks and those calendar blocks. Yes, I had to learn that. I'll share a little quick about my role. So my role, I'm usually in meetings all the time from 9 to 5. So sometimes we can average 7 to 10 meetings daily. And so
oh gosh.
Working on our diversity inclusion strategy and working across the board with our HR business partners, leadership, our talent team, which includes talent acquisition, talent development, employee resource groups, we call them employee networks, and making sure that I advocate for employees, also look at gaps within our recruiting strategy and help lead a diverse hiring strategy and work with external relationships. So I understand about all that, and that context switching can be very hard, but making sure you have those breaks in your calendar, very helpful. So we have time for about 2 more questions. And so, and our panelists have been dropping some great gems. And so let's have 2 different distinct questions. I want to learn something about the first one is, what do you feel that your allies can do in helping educate and create a more diverse and inclusive industry? Right? What is something you want to share to allies to do?
I can go.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. I won't take credit for this, but it has resonated. So I worked briefly for Cap Tech Consulting. And when I joined Cap Tech Consulting is right in the middle of all the BLM and all the riots and demonstrations and all the chaos of 2020's summer. And they had a diversity and inclusion team, right? But it quickly, right after I joined, transitioned to become a diversity, inclusion, and belonging team. And that word belonging, like, it resonated with me. And I think the role of our counterparts is to make sure that everybody feels like they belong in the circle, in the room, at the table. Everybody belongs. If you ever find yourself in a room where you think people accidentally stumbled and fell into that chair, they accidentally got promoted their way up into the hierarchy to be in that room with you, or they accidentally were approved through that job interview process, then you gotta reevaluate where you're working. If people are in that room with you, they belong there. And the role of our counterparts is to make sure everybody feels like they belong. I try to do that for myself, my team, the people who are in the room with me. And I would love for others to do that for me, because that's important. And that's been probably the most stressful thing for me as a Black professional, is feeling like I don't belong. That's the most stressful thing. Just because I don't look like the people around me, or I don't talk like them, or I didn't, I'm younger than them, maybe. That could even be a thing. So I think belonging is a key thing that our counterparts can do to make sure that that we're able to excel and be the best version of us.
I will agree. I mean, with Justin, I will tell you, several years ago, diversity and inclusion, that was the big thing. Everyone was creating a diversity and inclusion department. Then all of a sudden, I would say probably at the end of last year, before all the BLMs and what have you, it started to fade away and die down, what have you. But if you want an effective organization out, just like Justin said, you've got to make sure that everybody feels comfortable, because as he said, if you're in that room there, I want to say they're not only just as qualified, they're sometimes 2 to 3 times more qualified, because again, sometimes we have to have 2 or 3 times more experience or what have you. I mean, in order to get that position or what have you. But I also realized too, before, if you're the smartest one in the room too, then that's not great. You want to be around people who really know really more than you or what have you. So again, it's all about being comfortable and making people feel comfortable, as Justin said.
Thank you. And what do you have for us, Destiny? If you can shape that up.
Yes. So during last year, when all the Black Lives Matter protests were occurring, so our federal sector had decided to have a call with the Embrace initiative that I had mentioned earlier. And basically it was a call just to listen to the stories of Black IBMers and what it's like being Black, and actually exposing all of our IBMers to the realities of being Black. So for instance, someone was saying, she was a Black woman, she was saying she was happy that her son didn't actually look like her. She was married to a white man. She was happy that he didn't look like her, examples like that, examples like being pulled over just for being Black, that kind of thing. And so having that opportunity just for people to listen to our experiences was amazing. And it was eye-opening too to a lot of people, because when you don't live in a certain lifestyle or you don't experience the things that we experience, people don't understand, right? And they don't ever really stop and understand, because a lot of times people need a reason to stop. And so I had given basically an overview of how to be an advocate. And the first thing is just making sure that you just listen to someone's story and who they are and what they need, and that you realize that Black people are not a monolith. And so we don't all have the same needs and experiences. And so just realizing that everyone needs something different is the first thing. And I think the next thing is asking how you can help. So like, not everyone is going to think giving money is the most helpful way. Like sometimes, honestly, just asking how your day is during like the Black Lives Matter protests, or if you see, someone in the Black community being murdered on TV, like asking someone actually how their day is and asking if they're okay. That sometimes that's the biggest thing, and just being willing to listen. So I really just advise people to listen and really just ask for listening and not for a response.
Yep. Active listening. Yeah. And then amplifying what others had to say. And so if there are any managers that are out there that are watching, I would encourage you to check in on your employees and offer PTO, right? Around some of these times, just simply ask how they're doing. So this has been just a great discussion, impactful. I got a chance to meet some of my Adobe colleagues, alumni, and connect with you all. And so I just want to thank our panelists and for their insights and wisdoms that are provided with us today. And I want to thank the audience for joining us. And so we didn't have time for questions, but I'm pretty sure that you can engage with individuals if you find us on LinkedIn, if you have any further questions. So I would love to just shout out everyone and give them a little thank you in the chat pod for this discussion today. And I'm going to kick it back over to
Can I say one more thing?
Yes. All yours.
I honestly believe, there are so many things that I did when I was extremely young. I got involved, just like Destiny said, I got involved with the School of Business Alumni Society. As a matter of fact, all these questions that you're talking about, I feel like they were designed for me because I changed my major. I had a mentor. I'm serious. I had that mentor who, not only that, I was getting ready to take a job, a data entry job, you all, for $9,000. You all know in IT what that would have done, right? I was going to take a $9,000 data entry job. And Dr. Quincy Moore, my mentor, said, don't do that. Just hold on off. You're better than that. And next thing I know, 1 week later, I took a programming job for $18,000. Do you know I'm stuck in that data entry job had it not been for the mentor? The School of Business, I was also in the School of Business mentoring program, which then now led me, there's also called a AAAC African American Council Mentoring Circle that two of my good friends, Gail Cole Johnson and Jeff Roberts, developed, which is a alumni to mentee student mentoring program that we actually mentor African American students, what have you, because we go through different challenges that maybe our counterparts don't go through. It's a wonderful program, award-winning program. So I can't tell you how mentoring, getting involved with your School of, again, business, and give back a little. We all spend money all the time. Give a little bit of money back. Even if it's sponsoring a golf tournament or anything like that, it will actually pave the way for folks to understand what you're doing. All of this thing here, it happened for me, and it happened very quickly. That's why I am so indebted to VCU and indebted to mentoring and indebted to, trying to help the people coming behind me, because it's been a great ride. So that's all I had to say.
Same. Yeah, I think a lot of my mentors, Kelly Lemon and Dr. Faith Wilkinson was my mentors over in the programs office and taught me a lot about what I know about D&I. But yes, I'll hand it back over to Letitia.
Well, this has been great. Thank you, Karita, for moderating today's conversation, and to our wonderful panelists for your knowledge and expertise and sharing your stories with us. So actually, on those same lines that Glenn mentioned, if you are interested in connecting with alumni like we have on this panel, or even if you're interested in sharing your knowledge to students and fellow alumni, we would definitely encourage you to check out VCU Link. I have put that in the chat at link.vcu.edu. It is VCU's online community for connecting students, alumni, and friends of the university for career advice, industry contacts, and meaningful professional relationships. And that is also where you will find the AAAC mentoring circle right on VCU Link if you are interested in being a part as a mentor or a mentee. So definitely check that out. Lastly, everyone should now see a link to a short survey to complete so that we can get feedback and thoughts on today's event and how we can best shape our upcoming events. So on behalf of VCU Office of Alumni Relations, thank you for joining us today and have a great rest of your day.